How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, yesterday, when Lisa Cabrera had her hangout, I was watching the news at the same time, and while we were chit-chatting back and forth, I had put in the comment box that there was a fire over in Brazil that burned down Brazil's museum. Now, this is the fire here that y'all can see, and I don't know who said it because I'm never gonna steal anybody's any statements anyone make, but whoever it is, please let yourself be known. One of Lisa's subs said, could have been burned down because, throughout the world, the motherland has been asking for her artifacts back. And in fact, here is something in a paper over in Britain. Should Britain return African stolen treasures? Yes, they should, because they make millions and millions of dollars off of these stolen artifacts. And when I read that statement, and it wasn't verbatim, but when I read that statement, it just made me think, because I've heard for years various people in the vast continent of Akibalon, she wants her it's like her baby's back, and these people have a nerve to want to have their lips stuck out. So when that statement was made about they possibly could have burned it down, it's not a far stretch. But then I thought of something else. Is the divine hand at work, or is this man-made? Something to think about, my royal family. So I got 2 videos I'm going to play, and I will close it out nice and sweet like I always do. So let's get a deeper look.
Flames shot through the French windows and ornate iron balconies of this former 19th century palace. Museum employees and art lovers watched in frustration as firefighters fought to save Rio de Janeiro's National Museum, and in doing so preserve centuries of cultural and artistic history.
I just saw a piece of my history, the house of the emperor, where the Emperor Dom Pedro II of Brazil used to live, being destroyed. I see the history of my country becoming ashes. It has no price. I am devastated.
President Michel Temer echoed that sentiment, calling this a sad day for all Brazilians who have watched 200 years of work, investigation, and knowledge lost. The fire began after the museum closed its doors on Sunday evening. 80 firefighters worked through Monday morning to put it out. A fire department spokesman says they were hampered because 2 fire hydrants closest to the museum weren't working, and fire trucks had to be dispatched to retrieve water from a nearby lake.
It's a loss for the world. This can never be recovered. For the people, the building, there's no way to get it back. Thankfully, no one died, but the loss can never be recovered.
Even before the flames were put out, there was anger among museum employees. They blamed budget cuts by the government and a chronic lack of support. The National Museum's hundreds of rooms featured ancient Egyptian artifacts, the largest collection in Latin America, and the oldest human fossil in Brazil, known as Luiza. The museum turned 200 this year. Now 2018 will also be remembered for this devastating fire. Natasha Ghanem, Al Jazeera.
All right, my royal family. Make you go, Well, let's continue on.
Starting out with the reaction to this devastating fire at Brazil's National Museum. Yes, it marked its bicentennial anniversary on June the 6th this year, and now really the nation is in mourning. Many people sharing images like this one with the word luto, that hashtag being used very widely as well, meaning simply mourning, because it is such an important part of Brazil's cultural heritage, and many other countries too, because it wasn't just Brazilian artifacts that it held. This is one of the things that has been lost. It's a fresco, a Roman fresco from Pompeii that survived the fiery wrath of Vesuvius, but then was destroyed in this fire, which many people are saying is the result of neglect and could and should have been avoided. This gentleman says survived a volcano but couldn't handle the Brazilian politics. Sad day. More about the politics of this in a moment. One of the other things that is a great tragedy to note is that part of the reason this fire was able to take such hold is there was a delay in getting water to it because two of the fire hydrants weren't working. They had run dry, firefighters having to wait for water trucks to arrive, having collected water from nearby lakes. This historian really putting into context the scale of what has been lost in this fire. Quai Branly, a museum here in Paris, has an estimated 450,000 objects. The British Museum, 8 million works. But the National Museum in Brazil has an estimated, or had an estimated 20 million objects. It really is heartbreaking to see such a loss on such a scale. And really it all happened very, very quickly. Now what we are starting to see is the anger, actually people taking to the streets, standing in front of the museum, staging these protests, saying this was a tragedy that was foretold. And it was. Many people sharing this article, which warned about the cuts to maintenance funding that have been going on for many, many years, meaning that in the first 4 months of 2018, they'd only received 11,000 euros to help maintain what was such an immensely important historical site. Now that was published 3 months ago, and in it the director said that he had all these plans to invest. He wanted to model it on New York's Natural History Museum, but already 10 of its 30 exhibition halls were closed, and visitor numbers had actually plummeted because many people thought this museum was already shut down. It is unlikely that it will be resurrected in anything like its former glory. This is how it looks now, these images from TV Globo. There are a couple of things that have survived, including a meteor from the 18th century, which weighs more than 5 tons. That's one of the few things still standing in the rubble. And this image really sums up the day, I think, a firefighter looking pretty forlorn, carrying in his hand one of the artefacts that did manage to survive.
So, national tragedy, international perspective to it as well, and unsurprisingly, it is becoming more and more politicised.
Very much so. The current president, Michel Temer, spoke of the incalculable loss, but it's Dilma Rousseff, the former president, who has really courted controversy and made a lot of people very angry. She tweeted this. She accused what she called the cut scammers of freezing investment for 20 years in health, education and culture, compromising the future until the past is turned into ashes. Now, that's all very poetic, but a lot of people feeling that really she should have been shouldering more of the blame on this one. This person saying lying opportunist, and has some accompanying headlines detailing budget cuts that happened under her administration. This gentleman too saying, with all due respect, former president, are you not to blame as well? But as you say, it is an international tragedy, and many people voicing their support and their sadness, including the British Library, who says this is a reminder of the fragility and preciousness of our shared global heritage.
And those things, of course, lost forever, which is incredibly tragic on that level. Now, here in France, there's a new initiative to protect crumbling heritage sites, but not everyone is impressed by this project. Do explain.
Yes, it's called the Loto du Patrimoine, which basically means heritage lottery. If you're from the UK, it'll sound familiar. That's kind of where they got their inspiration. And the idea is it's a lottery to raise all sorts of money, millions of euros, to fund work on key sites across the country, 270 in all. But there are 18 in particular that are described as emblematic endangered monuments, including this one, a Roman aqueduct near Lyon. There are also old chateaux, churches, a railway roundhouse, and this Fort Cigogne in Finistère, which is a military fort currently used by members of a local sailing club. I'm not sure whether they will still be allowed to use it once money's
Great
been...
place for your sailing club, you know.
Yes, I don't know whether they'll still be able to use it once money's been poured into to do it up. But anyway, they are hoping that this lotto is going to raise between 15 and 20 million euros for this cause. There's going to be a draw on the 14th of September for a super lotto jackpot of 13 million, which ties in with when we have the Heritage Weekend here in France. There are also 12 million scratch cards on sale, 6 of which have a jackpot of 1.5 million on them. They are expensive though, 15 euros a pop for those scratch cards. Some people taking part saying this is my contribution to our heritage. Others, though, are very angry about the amount of money that is going into the projects themselves. The tickets cost 15 euros, only €1.50 actually goes to the Heritage Foundation, which does seem a very, very small figure. Some people calling it a beautiful con. This person saying, I was interested in the idea to begin with, then I read about it, and we are being taken for idiots.
That just about sums it all up. Emma, thanks to
All
you
right.
very much indeed for your reading. Emma Jameson.
All right, my royal family, that is quite convenient, I see. First thing I want to say is all of this stuff is insured. Who the fuck do they think they are fooling? When you have precious artifacts, or let's say stolen artifacts, trust and believe, they guard this shit with their life. And now more demands are being made for these artifacts to be returned to its rightful place. And I'm leaning right now more towards the human hand has something to do with it. Now, I feel like it was deliberately left to fall apart because I listened to language real well, and that woman was talking about international support. And don't think that these people ain't evil enough to say, fuck it, we'll burn the shit down. And how do we know if that stuff was burned down? It could have been removed. It's quite convenient that it would burn soon as it closed. Now people are out protesting. And what are they protesting for? Because the majority of those artifacts are ours. Or put it this way, one time Brazil was totally, well, the whole world was totally black, but you know, people lose sight of that, you know, and there is a great deal of Afro influence over in Brazil, and they exercise their isms too as well. But that was the first thing that popped up in my head. All of this is insured, and how do we really know if these precious artifacts that were stolen from us is really burnt down? Or could it be the divine hand? So anyway, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.